of Islamic sentiment. But let's pick up at this point and talk about Islamic sentiment in the United States.
Well, if you're just tuning in, my name is Alana McLaughlin, and I gave a little background about me. Also, in the first segment, I talked about vocabulary and key terms that you're going to need to know the definitions of to be able to fully take away everything from the show today. I talked about, basically the whole thing of the show is talking about and analyzing, kind of picking apart the anti-Semitic feeling,
Islamic.
of Islam, I'm sorry. So basically I talk about anti-sentiment. And so just think the word sentiment is like good feelings and etc. Think sentimental. And then think of anti-sentiment as the complete opposite. And then anti-sentimental feelings toward Islam, or the religion. And I talked about Islam, which is a monotheistic religion. It goes by the Quran, which is the equivalent of the Bible in Christianity. It's their holy word, and they believe it is the verbatim word by God. And so I talked about what Islam is, and I talked about a few common misconceptions, the most popular being that Muslim is a religion and that Islamic people are the people that follow Muslims, which is totally wrong. Muslims are the people that follow Islam. They're the equivalent, like this is Christians and this is Christianity, and they follow that. And so I talked about those misconceptions, but now I'm going to talk about the anti-sentimental feelings toward Muslims in the United States. Now, I think that you've probably encountered some anti-sentimental feelings, but you've probably just not seen that they were anti-sentimental. Like, for instance, on social media, I always see jokes of people making fun of Muslims for, say, how they dress or the Quran or something, just making wisecracks about that. And people laugh or repost it and they encourage it, but they don't really see how how painful that would be to see on your timeline. And so I just think that anti-sentimental feelings, they really, say the political election of 2016, Donald Trump, for instance, he's widely known for wanting to create a wall to keep out immigrants and et cetera, and he's also voiced so many other opinions that I don't want to get into because that's a show in itself. And so, also, there are so many stereotypes that come from anti-sentimental feelings toward Islamic people, and some aren't even stereotypes. Like, for instance, I was flying to Washington, D.C. by myself. Or no, I was flying from D.C. to Nashville, and there was a man behind me, and I think that he was a Muslim. Well, he had a Quran in his hand, and we were in line trying to go through TSA. And so I went through and got my stuff, and I sat waiting for the rest of the group that I was with to get ready to board a plane. And they were just giving him the hardest time trying to go through security. And they were just doing unnecessary things that were just, like, they made him open up his Quran and they had to, like, flip through it and, like, put it through the machine. Like, that's extra. I was carrying bags and stuff, and they didn't do half as much stuff to me as they did to him. And I'm just sitting here thinking, like, wow, this is the country we live in. And other people were just looking, and I saw a couple teenagers just laughing. I'm like, are you kidding me? This is actually happening. And it caught me off guard because I've always heard about stories like that, but I've never seen anything like that firsthand. And I thought about that the whole plane ride home, and I was just like, wow. And so we see things like this. And for instance, we see things like this and we don't ever take a stand. Now, there are some brave souls who do, but for the most part, people don't. And another thing that really, really irritates me, people are always talking about ISIS, which is a terrorist group that needs to be stopped ASAP. The biggest thing that irks me is people who think that all followers of Islam are part of ISIS. That is not what's going on at all. That's like saying all people who listen to hip hop are drug dealers, or all people who listen to soul are hippies. You can't judge an entire race or group or party by one thought. Like, I grew up in a Democratic household, but I can tell you that not all Democrats hate gays or whatever. And I can tell you that not all Democrats hate Republicans. It's just, I hate stereotypes like that. And I hate when people try to classify large groups by one thing that just so happens to be popular among that group of people. Like, yes, a lot of people in the world like fried chicken. Yes, a lot of black people like fried chicken. Not all black people like fried chicken, and I wish people would get that through their heads.
Well, Lana, when you see people thinking in terms of animosity toward these various groups, we've got about 2 minutes in this segment. When you see people thinking about the animosity toward various groups, to put it within the African-American context, and you think in terms of slavery, the Civil War, and then the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, are you contending, or are you saying that all of these groups, no matter what group they might, what religion they might belong to, have the same constitutional and civil rights, liberties? Is that what we're saying here?
Everybody deserves a chance at life. Everybody deserves a chance to be able to walk through TSA without being double-checked just because of the traditional dress that they're wearing. Everyone deserves a chance to be able to walk freely down the street without being called ISIS. Every black woman deserves the right to walk down the street without being called I don't know if I can say that on TV.
No,
I'm not going to. And every white person deserves not to be able to be labeled as, every white Southern person deserves not to be able to be called KKK or say some stupid stereotype like they date their cousins or something. Because, I mean, sure, that may have happened in the South, but you can't classify a whole